The Cadillac sat at the edge of a rust-stained lot, its chrome dulled by time but still catching the sunlight like a fading memory. To most people passing by, it was nothing more than a relic, a heavy steel carcass from another era. But to Marcus Ellison, standing alone with his hands shoved deep into his worn coat pockets, the car was a lifeline. He had lost nearly everything: his wife, his home, his reputation, and now, staring at this weathered 1937 Cadillac, he felt something stir inside him. Not hope exactly, but the faint echo of possibility. Just a month earlier, Marcus had been a man other men envied. A respected architect in Atlanta, he lived in a glass-front townhouse, the kind with polished wood floors and clean lines that mirrored the future he was building. His wife, Serena, had been the picture of elegance, always poised, always admired. Together they looked like success carved into flesh. But the same week Marcus won a prestigious city contract. The foundations of his personal life cracked wide open. Serena filed for divorce, accusing him of cruelty, infidelity, and worse. None of it was true, but truth mattered little in the court of whispers. Overnight, Marcus became the villain in a story he didn't write. Friends stopped calling. Colleagues stepped back. He went from hosting design galas to sitting alone in a diner, stirring cold coffee, and watching people pretend not to notice him. The house went first, sold to cover mounting legal costs. Then came the endless headlines, his name dragged across the local news like a smear of paint. By the time the judge's gavel fell, Marcus was hollowed out, carrying only a few bags of clothes and the bitter taste of betrayal. That's when he saw the Cadillac. It wasn't listed in any glossy ad. He found it tucked behind a small garage on the edge of town, parked like a forgotten king stripped of his crown. Something about its lines, the sweeping fenders, the broad grille spoke of an era when craftsmanship still mattered. It was priced at far less than it was worth, the garage owner eager to clear space. Marcus didn't know why he handed over nearly the last of his savings. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was the need to own something solid, something that couldn't be taken from him. Whatever the reason, he drove off in that Cadillac as if it were both coffin and salvation. The first night he slept inside it, he understood how far he had fallen. The seats smelled of mildew, the windows fogged easily, and the springs dug into his back. Rain hammered the roof like cruel applause. Yet, strangely, he didn't cry. Instead, he stared at the cracked ceiling fabric and thought, "At least I'm still breathing." The world had already pronounced him finished. But inside that car, surrounded by the hum of his own heartbeat, Marcus realized he wasn't ready to surrender. Each morning, he cleaned himself at a gas station sink, careful to keep his shoulders squared, as if dignity could be scrubbed back onto his skin. He wore the same pressed shirt every day, washed each night in cold water, and hung inside the Cadillac to dry. He searched for work, but no firm wanted the shadow of scandal near their projects. Weeks turned into a cruel cycle: rejection, hunger, silence. And yet, Marcus held himself with a strange, quiet resolve. If his wife had tried to erase him, if the world had turned its back, he would find a way to exist anyway. One evening, while adjusting the driver's seat, he noticed something odd. The leather beneath the cushion sagged in a way that didn't match the wear. Curiosity pushed him to peel it back, exposing a small metal box wedged deep inside the frame. His pulse quickened. The box was heavy, its edges corroded but intact. He hesitated, glancing around the empty lot as if someone might be watching. Then he pried it open. Inside lay a bundle of cloth, brittle with age. Carefully Marcus unwrapped it, revealing stacks of coins, each gleaming faintly, despite decades of concealment. They weren't ordinary coins. They were gold, stamped with dates from the early 1900s. His breath caught. It felt impossible, like stumbling into a dream. Beneath the coins rested a folded letter, its ink faded but legible. The words hinted at a family fleeing ruin during the Great Depression, hiding their wealth in the Cadillac as a last desperate safeguard. And then silence. History had buried their story, leaving Marcus to uncover it now. His hands shook as he held the treasure. For a moment visions crowded his mind, paying debts, buying back his name, stepping into a future where he wasn't a pariah. But just as quickly, doubt seeped in. Was this truly his to claim? Or was it another cruel test, a temptation dangling before a man already on his knees? He pressed the lid shut and leaned back, breath ragged, the Cadillac's interior closing in like a confessional booth. That night Marcus didn't sleep. He stared at the dark windshield, the world outside blurred with rain, and wondered if fate was finally offering him a hand, or if it was laughing at him again. Marcus woke the next morning with the box still resting in the passenger seat, its weight heavier than any secret he had ever carried. The Cadillac smelled faintly of dust and old metal, but now beneath it there was also the scent of change, sharp and undeniable. He traced his fingers across the lid, wondering if the hidden fortune was a curse disguised as a blessing. Still, hunger gnawed at his stomach, and the coins shimmered in his mind like a promise. For the first time in weeks, he felt something close to hope, but hope was a dangerous thing. He began cautiously. Instead of rushing to pawn the gold, Marcus researched late into the night at the public library. The story he uncovered fascinated him. During the Great Depression, wealthy families had hidden valuables in cars, furniture, even walls, desperate to safeguard what banks and institutions could no longer protect. Many treasures vanished with their owners, swallowed by time. The Cadillac, it seemed, was more than just a car. It was a vessel of history, a ghost carrying secrets forward. Marcus felt almost chosen, as though the car had been waiting for him. Still, he moved carefully. He took a single coin to a small appraisal shop, his heart pounding as he slid it across the counter. The appraiser, an older man with spectacles, turned it over, tapped it against his scale, and then looked up with wide eyes. "Where'd you find this?" he asked. Marcus forced a smile. "Family heirloom." The man nodded slowly, then named a value so high Marcus felt his knees weaken. Just one coin could buy him weeks of meals, maybe even rent for a small apartment. He left the shop clutching the returned coin, his mind spinning, yet Marcus didn't rush. Something inside him insisted that if he squandered this gift, he would lose more than money, he would lose himself. So he made a plan. The first step wasn't wealth, it was survival. He exchanged one coin discreetly, using the money to secure a cheap motel room. For the first time in months, he slept on a real bed, though the Cadillac remained parked outside like a sentinel. The days that followed were a strange blend of fear and exhilaration. Each morning Marcus worked odd jobs, loading trucks, repairing fences, anything that kept his hands busy and his mind sharp. By night he studied architecture again, sketching designs in a worn notebook, reminding himself that he was still the man who once built skyscrapers of glass and steel. The Cadillac became his sanctuary, its leather seats now scrubbed clean, the box of gold hidden deep in a compartment he fashioned himself. To Marcus, the car was no longer a prison, it was a partner in his resurrection, but the world had a way of noticing when a man began to rise. Serena, his ex-wife, heard whispers that Marcus was no longer destitute. She had expected him to remain broken, his fall a confirmation of her lies. Yet when she saw him one afternoon, shoulders squared, eyes alive with quiet determination, something inside her curdled. She followed him, discreet at first, until she noticed the Cadillac. The car seemed out of place for a man who supposedly had nothing. Suspicion gnawed at her. What had he found? Marcus didn't notice at first, he was too busy rebuilding himself in small, deliberate steps. He secured a drafting job at a local firm after weeks of persistence. His sketches too good to ignore, despite his tarnished name. The paycheck was modest, but it was honest, and it gave him pride. With each passing day, he restored not just his finances, but his sense of identity. One evening, after finishing a late shift, Marcus returned to the Cadillac and found a note tucked beneath the wiper blade. The handwriting was sharp, deliberate. "I know what you're hiding. We need to talk." His stomach sank. He glanced around the empty lot, shadows stretching across the pavement, but saw no one. Instinctively, he opened the Cadillac and checked the hidden compartment. The box was still there, heavy and silent. But the note confirmed his fear. Someone knew. Sleep became impossible again. He carried the weight of the secret differently now, not as a blessing, but as a target painted across his life. He considered leaving town, taking the Cadillac far from the eyes that pried. But something held him back. This city, broken as it was for him, was still his. Running would mean letting his enemies win. The turning point came one night as Marcus drove through the outskirts of town. The Cadillac's engine hummed steadily, headlights slicing through the darkness, when he caught sight of his reflection in the rearview mirror. For the first time in years, he didn't see a ruined man. He saw someone tempered by fire, sharpened by loss. The gold was not his salvation, it was merely the tool. His true strength was the will that had carried him this far. Resolved, Marcus decided he would no longer cower. He would no longer be defined by whispers or lies. If the world wanted to know his story, then he would show them, not with excuses, but with actions. The Cadillac with its hidden past had given him the chance. What he did next would prove whether he deserved it. Outside, the night pressed in thick and silent. Marcus gripped the wheel tighter, steering toward a future he could not yet see. The Cadillac roared forward, carrying both the weight of history and the promise of redemption. The Cadillac became more than a car. It became a stage where Marcus's past and future collided. He polished the chrome until it gleamed again, restored the cracked dashboard with careful hands, and drove it proudly through the city streets. To strangers, it was just a vintage car. To Marcus, it was proof that even things discarded, written off, and left to rust could shine again. But Serena wasn't done. She arranged a meeting, cornering him outside the architecture firm one afternoon. Her voice was honeyed, her smile sharp. "You're looking well, Marcus," she said, her eyes flicking toward the Cadillac parked nearby. He met her gaze steadily, refusing to flinch. "I'm managing." Her tone shifted, colder now. "You've found something. Don't pretend you haven't. That car, it's not just a car, is it?" Marcus said nothing. He didn't need to. The silence between them spoke louder than words. Serena leaned closer, her perfume familiar yet cloying. "You owe me," she hissed. "I built you. I made you who you are. Whatever you've got now, I deserve my share." For the first time, Marcus didn't feel anger or despair. He felt clarity. She hadn't ruined him. She had freed him, by stripping away the illusions, by tearing down the life built on appearances. She had forced him to confront who he truly was. And who he was now didn't need her approval, her validation, or her share. He stepped back, his voice calm, steady. "What I have isn't yours. What I've built since you left, that's mine. And this time, no one can take it from me." Her expression faltered, surprise flashing across her features. She was used to the broken Marcus, the desperate Marcus. This man before her was unshaken. She left in a storm of indignation, but Marcus knew her power over him was gone. Completely. In the weeks that followed, the gold became less of a secret, and more of a foundation. He sold it carefully, piece by piece, channeling the funds into quiet investments. He didn't flaunt wealth. He rebuilt dignity. The Cadillac itself became a symbol around town. People noticed the man who once slept inside it, now arriving at community meetings, helping fund scholarships for young architects, supporting local businesses. Word spread, but not the way it once had when scandal consumed him. This time, whispers carried respect. They spoke of resilience, of a man who clawed his way back without bitterness. The Cadillac's story leaked too, the rumor of treasure found within its frame, but Marcus never confirmed it. Some called it luck. Others called it fate. Marcus simply called it living proof that you can't bury the truth forever. One crisp autumn afternoon, he drove the Cadillac to the same courthouse, where his reputation had once been shredded. The building loomed tall and indifferent, but Marcus walked in with his head high. He had been asked to consult on a restoration project, his expertise too valuable to ignore. As he spread his sketches across the table, the officials leaned in, nodding with respect. His name was no longer a curse. It was, once again, a signature of vision, and when he stepped back outside, the Cadillac waited for him at the curb, sunlight glinting off its hood. Children stopped to stare at it, wide-eyed, pointing at the vintage curves. Their parents smiled politely at Marcus, no longer whispering about scandal but about the comeback they'd witnessed. Later that night, Marcus sat in the Cadillac with the driver's door open, listening to the city hum around him. He pulled the final letter from the box, the one that had accompanied the gold, and read it again. The words from a long-dead family rang fresh. "If you are reading this, then life has placed our burden in your hands. Use it not to hoard, but to build. Wealth is not what you keep, it's what you create." Marcus closed his eyes and breathed deeply. He realized now that the Cadillac hadn't saved him. It had only reminded him who he was. the strength, the resilience, the refusal to quit, that had always been inside him. The gold was merely a catalyst. The true treasure was the man he had become in the process. When dawn broke, painting the sky in shades of fire, Marcus turned the key in the ignition. The Cadillac roared to life, no longer just a machine of steel and gasoline, but a companion, a witness to his rebirth. He drove through the quiet streets with the windows rolled down, the wind against his face. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't running from the past. He was driving toward the future, and maybe that's what life really is. We think it's the things we lose, the betrayals we suffer, the storms we barely survive. But in truth, life is about the roads we choose after the wreckage. It's about taking the ruins and building something stronger, something unshakable. Marcus Ellison had lost everything, but in losing it all he had found the only thing that could never be stolen: himself. So when people in town whispered about the Cadillac and the gold, Marcus only smiled, because he knew the secret wasn't hidden in the leather seats or beneath the steel frame. The secret was standing tall behind the wheel, a man remade, proof that no matter how deep the fall, there is always a road back up. And as the Cadillac rolled into the horizon, Marcus didn't just carry a story of betrayal and redemption. He carried a truth carved into every mile of road. Sometimes what destroys you is exactly what saves you.